Yeah, Cardinals wrapped up their preseason yesterday in Denver, and they got a mile-high beatdown, 38-12. The final score is the Broncos win it. Cardinals finish 0-3. Doesn't matter, but there are things that do matter from the preseason, and we'll find out what those things are as we're joined right now on the Arizona Sports Line. Cardinals pre- and post-game host Kyle Vanden Bosch joins us here on the Arizona Sports Line. Kyle, good morning.
What's up, Kyle?
Good morning, guys.
Yeah, and thank goodness the preseason football is over. Can we agree on that first and foremost?
Amen. That was rough. At one point yesterday, I was in the studio. I started reading Scott's book because it was sitting on the counter during the game.
Well, it was nice of you to put it back on its stand, Kyle. We appreciate that.
Well, I'm glad you didn't rip it up. It's still sitting there. That's good news.
All right, so that we just heard it from Wolf, and he's teasing what they're talking about on Wolf and Luke today, starting at 10. What did you learn from the preseason in terms of roster construction, or what's the biggest burning question as we sit right now before it's pared down to 53 in your mind?
There's a lot. I think the obvious one is the backup quarterback situation, whether that guy's even on the roster or not. There's a number of position groups that we've been trying to sort out through the preseason. Running back, tight end, backup offensive line, the back end of the wide receiver room, who we're going to keep an outside linebacker, defensive tackle, which corners will be on the roster. Those are all decisions that I don't have a clear answer at this point, and I don't know that the preseason games helped much. I've long said this offseason, I think Monty Ossenfort, Jonathan Gannon, with the players they brought in, they raised the ceiling a little bit, particularly Marvin Harrison Jr. You bring in some D tackles to fortify that defensive line. I think they did raise the ceiling a little bit, but I thought they significantly raised the floor. But what about my eyeballs tell me after 3 preseason games, our 2s and 3s got beat by, the other 2s and 3s in every single preseason game, especially yesterday, going against a 5-win team. From last season, the 2s and 3s weren't competitive against the Denver Broncos. So while on paper, I still believe we've raised the floor of this team, up to this point, nothing in the preseason has shown me that we've done that.
Yeah, in terms of, you mentioned the backup quarterback position, wondering whether or not the backup quarterback's even on the roster right now. If the Cardinals go down the road and pare down the 53 and they keep one or the other, Ritter or Tune, who do you think it would be?
I think every step of the competition, every phase of it, whether it be training camp practice, whether it be joint practices against the Colts, whether it be preseason games, I think Clayton Tune fared better, not significantly better, but fared better, showed improvement from last year, looked a little more decisive, really outside of yesterday's game. Looked to have a little bit better command of the offense, more accuracy. So I think Clayton Tune, edged out Desmond Ritter. But again, I don't think it was a significant win. I don't feel, extra confident in our backup quarterback situation at this point.
Kyle, 6'4", 278 pounds out of Nebraska, played 152 games in the NFL. Zach Wilson yesterday, 16 of 25, 251 yards, 2 TDs, and 1 rushing. Did you see enough from our defensive line putting enough pressure on him? I mean, you play defensive end now. Did you see enough of them getting after that quarterback, making it tough on him? Is that an area for concern, or am I overreacting?
No, I think it is. Until we see it in regular season games, it's going to be an area of concern. And I'll say this, there's been talk, Cameron Thomas showed up in the preseason, Xavier Thomas showed up in the preseason. Outside of maybe the quarterback position, in the NFL, there is no bigger step down from the 1s to the 2s than offensive line. And beating a backup offensive lineman, beating a third-string offensive lineman, while it is something, it's often not a lot. And, there's a reason offensive linemen are so coveted, because the ones that can hold up in pass protection are so few and far between. And quite frankly, there's a lot of offensive linemen starting in the National Football League that can't hold up in pass protection. So even the wins in the preseason, while it's good to see, I'm not sold that when, Xavier Thomas did some good things in the preseason, and he showed inside moves, outside moves, showed some power rushes. Until he can do it against another team starting offensive lineman, I'm not fully sold on that. And I understand, this is a separate subject. I understand Jonathan Gannon, and I trust Jonathan Gannon and his philosophy. And until he is wrong, I am not going to second guess him. I understand sitting starters. I have a hard time, getting behind sitting rookies in preseason games, guys that, while you need them in the regular season, they need live reps. They need game experience. They need to see things at full speed. And when you're sitting Xavier Thomas, in the last preseason game, Trey Benson doesn't play, Tip Ryan, these are all guys that, they're not starters. They need those live reps. They need to see as much of real football as they can. And quite frankly, training camp practices, even joint practices, is not real football. While I'm not going to second guess his decisions until we see the results of what this team looks like in the first few games and how they respond and what they look like in Buffalo. But, I can understand sitting starters. I have a hard time understanding sitting guys that have never played a snap in a real football game.
Yeah. Kyle Vanden Bosch, our guest here on Bickley and Marotta Mornings with Scott Williams, sitting in for Bick today. On that subject, rookies sitting, we saw a very, very small sample of Darius Robinson in game one against New Orleans. Didn't play the next 2 weeks. Didn't have the opportunity to play yesterday because he gets injured in practice on Thursday. And we don't have a concrete timetable. It's being reported as a multiple week injury. From your experience, Kyle, how detrimental could that be to Darius Robinson's rookie season, all things considered?
It can be. And the reason I say that is, I don't know the injury. I don't know the degree. It's reported that it's a calf injury. And if there is a tear in that calf, if it's significant enough to keep him out multiple weeks, even upon his return, it's going to be really difficult for him to be explosive, get up on his toes, really load that leg. I've had hamstrings that linger an entire season. I've played with guys that have had, pretty significant calf injuries that even when they return to the lineup, it's not quite the same. But I just hope whatever he's dealing with, he has an opportunity to fully rehab it, get as close to 100% as possible. But in reality, if it's significant enough to keep him out a few weeks, it's going to be significant enough to linger for, majority of the season, if not all of it.
Kyle, I'm not going to ask you to make predictions on every game, but as professional athletes go, the psyche of the athlete is important, especially how you get off to a start. And I'm looking at this Cardinals schedule, and I hope I'm wrong, but at Bills, Lions, Commanders, at 49ers, at Packers, and Chargers, the first 6 games. Brutal schedule. I don't know if they can get 2 wins. Am I wrong?
Yeah, it's tough to see it on paper. Now, too, as a professional athlete, I would much rather be in a situation where everybody's saying what you're saying, where they're saying this team can't win, they're going to get off to a tough start. I would rather be on a team where fans have low expectations because I want to prove people wrong. I want to go out there and show that, we've arrived, we've taken that next step. And it's been talked about over and over. Every year there's that one team that kind of comes out of nowhere that really nobody expects. And, based upon what I saw last year, I think the coaching staff did a masterful job with the roster they had. They were competitive in almost every game. They had an opportunity to knock off some playoff teams. So if they can, carry that confidence that they showed last season, that, regardless of where they're at, who they're playing against, they're going to go out there and compete and be competitive, and they can come up with a good game plan to do so. If they can not steal, but if they can, really quiet the doubters in a couple of those first couple of games, I think it will set them up for success. And just the way this offense is built and this team is built, you're never going to get way behind. You're built on running the ball, not putting the ball in harm's way, controlling the clock. Things like that will keep you in games and give them an opportunity late in the fourth quarter.
Kyle, always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thanks so much for your time and insight, as always.
Thanks, Kyle.
Hey, thank you, guys.
I got to get you a copy of the book. I'm sure you didn't get a chance to read it all yesterday.
I got through most of it.
It was that great of a game, huh, Kyle?
Right.
Well, go Cardinals. I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'm hoping they're 3-3 after the first 6.
We'll talk soon, Kyle. Thanks again, man. Kyle Vanden Bosch, Cardinals radio pre- and post-game host. He joined us on the Arizona Sports Line.
Thanks for watching Bickley and Marotta. Click to see the latest Bickley Blast and hit the button in the middle to subscribe to Arizona Sports.